to the Community and Strategy meeting for the 12th of April. That seems hard to believe, but yep, here we are. And I will call for apologies. There's Councillor Duffy,
yep,
Councillor Kramer and Councillor Byers both indicated at the last meeting that they wouldn't be available.
okay, righty-ho.
So does that make us up to square?
Yes, Councillor Ford's just joined.
Great. So those three apologies. Councillor Fraser.
Just an apology. I need to shoot out for about 10 minutes at 2:20, but shouldn't be away for too long.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Menzies.
Thank you, Chair. I will be leaving the video presentation about 2:30 if we're not finished, but I'll continue listening on my phone. Yes, okay. Safely as I'm driving. Thank you.
Yeah. Be safe. Yep. So we have those three apologies, if I'm counting correctly there, Fiona. Can someone move that they be accepted? Thanks, Councillor Harper. Seconded, Councillor Menzies. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Agreed. Aye. Carried. Any at the close of business for the agenda, there was no leave of absences received. Is there any to be notified? Your hand is still up, Councillor Menzies. You're not leaving.
Thank you. I did leave that up, but I will notify an absence in June, but I'll do that nearer the time as well.
Thank you. Are there any conflicts of interest with this agenda? None being, we'll move on. There's no public forum as we're receiving our visitors as a part of the meeting. There was no extraordinary or urgent items. And we now go to page 10 of the agenda for the confirmations of the minutes from the 23rd of November.
And the 1st of February.
And also on page 23, yes, the 1st of February. I'm assuming that everybody's read those. Do we have someone willing to move them as a true and correct record?
Councillor Roddenclaw.
Thank you, Councillor Roddenclaw, and seconded by Councillor Menzies. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried. And so now we welcome Siri McLeod, and we've got Paul Marshall and
Tracy's not here.
Welcome to our meeting today. We're on page 27 of the agenda for councillors and those following that through, and I will welcome you to the meeting. Let's find my own space here. And we will thank you. You can present to us. Welcome.
Thank you
very much, both.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Paul Marshall toku ingoa. I acknowledge Ngāi Tahu ki Murihiku as mana whenua. Greetings, Mayor Tong, Councillor Keast as chair, other councillors, staff and guests. It's my great pleasure to introduce you to our regional lead, Kerry McLeod. I'm hopeful that my co-chair, Tracy Wright-Tafa, might join us, but she's not with us yet. And I apologise for Kerry. She is somewhat poorly, but thank you so much for joining us, Kerry. I thought that we would quickly run through what the Regional Skills Leadership Group is and the context of our establishment and what we're charged with doing. So the Regional Skills Leadership Group is specific to Southland, but we are one of 15 independent government-appointed advisory groups. The other 14 are in the other regions spread around the country. So we're locally based and regionally led, but centrally government supported. And our brief is really to provide advice to the 5 MB, Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment ministers. Our lead minister is Minister Sapoloni. Some of the outputs from our group you may have seen are our local insights reports, which we produce at least quarterly, but depending on the urgency of the matters that we address, sometimes as frequently as monthly. Our principal output for this year and for the next 2 will be the production of a regional workforce plan, which is a big swallow. Kerry, do we have the presentation up?
No, we don't yet. I think I might need actually somebody to give me permission to screen share.
You handle that, Fiona? Or is it?
How is this looking?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Let me just.
Our PO, Kerry.
Sure.
So early on in our work stream, as a group, we asked ourselves, what are our key aspirations? Our concern is with both the supply and the demand side of the Southland Murihiku labour market. And so what are our key aspirations? What are the things that we believe would make Southland Murihiku a spectacular place to live and work? So our first is around system change. We want our region to be prepared for future labour market needs. The second is we want our people to be adaptive. We want our region to support our people to thrive in that labour market. The third PO is cultural change. We want our region to be committed to equitable outcomes for Maori. And the fourth is workplace change. We want our region to be renowned as a great place to live and work. Those 4 PO are underpinned by an absolute commitment to the principles of Te Tiriti, a Te Ao Maori perspective, and we want our region to be prepared as possible for climate change. And believe me, the last 3 months tell us that climate change is knocking on our door, and we want to embrace the opportunities of decarbonisation. Kerry, next slide, please. So those are our aspirations, and as I mentioned, the regional workforce plan is a big swallow, and trying to address all the supply and demand issues that arise sector by sector right across the Southland economy was too great a task. So we've selected 5 key areas for our first regional workforce plan to focus on, and those are in front of you: food and fibre, healthcare and social assistance, manufacturing and engineering, tourism and hospitality, and rangatahi. So, and issues around rangatahi are slightly different from the other 4 sectors in that those issues are actually woven right the way through the other 4 sectors that we're looking at. Next slide, Kerry. So our membership is broad. Tracy Wright Tafa is my co-chair. You will know Tracy as the chief executive, founder and chief executive of Nakete. We have a mix of demand and supply side members. We have Karen Perdue from the council staff on board, Ben Lewis from Great South, other industry groups, and as a permanent official, we have Steph Voigt, who is the acting Regional Public Service Commissioner. So the interesting thing, before we move off that slide, is that we are one of 2 regional skills leadership groups which has been successful in attracting specific funding from the Ministry of Youth and to have appointed a rangatahi representative. And for us, Mapahi Kaharangi Davis has been appointed. So we're delighted there. So next slide. Now this slide is very busy, but the critical thing about this slide is it shows the context in which the Regional Skills Leadership Group actually works. Across Southland, many of you will be aware that there is a lot of stuff happening. Just Transitions, which is a separate division of NB, is working with Murihiku Regenerate and the Merrill Forum in the context of the signalled closure of the smelter in 2024. So their work is underway. In addition, we have Great South spearheading the revisiting of the Swords strategy. And I'm told it's not called Swords 2.0, but as a working title, it probably covers that off okay. And we've got a great number of stakeholders operating, iwi Maori, workers represented by the unions, the employers, and we're working closely with the chamber, social service and education providers, because at the end of the day, what the Regional Skills Leadership Group's key outputs will result in is improved investment in vocational training across Murihiku Southland. So our work with education providers and SIT in particular is critically important, and I've already mentioned Great South. So I think dropping out of that context is our delivery of what will be our first regional workforce plan, and we are well on the way to meeting our May completion date for that. So with that, Madam Chair, I would open the conversation up for questions.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's a good oversight there, and yeah, you've obviously canvassed quite widely to get great variety of opinions and input into your work that you're coming up with there. Are there any questions from councillors?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I haven't got a question as such, but Paul, just touching on the matter I raised at the Merrill Forum in regards to disabled, that's still part of this process, isn't it? Yep.
Yep, it absolutely is. And we absolutely recognise that parts of the labour market have not served some sectors across Southland well. The disabled community is one of those. Some parts of rangatahi youth is another. And this is one statistic that simply appalls me, that of eligible school-age children, only 60% of those kids regularly attend school. 60%. Now, regularly attend school means 90% of the time. And if you think about that statistic and what that means for school-age children as they transition into the workforce, how ready can the other 40% be? And so that's a massive challenge, but equally it's a massive opportunity for us. But it does mean that when we look at vocational training, we actually need to be thinking much earlier than when a youth might traditionally transition from secondary school into vocational training. And so our brief actually needs to be much broader than simply focused on the labour market. It starts much earlier. And so as we bed down our first regional workforce plan, we're already thinking about the next stage. And the next stage will necessarily take into account those things. I'm hopeful, Gary, that we will pick up on the disability sector in particular as well.
Thank you. And I see that you have Chris Kennett on there, because a lot of what you're talking about there is what we talk about at Southland Youth Futures as well. So he'll no doubt be a strong advocate or voice in your arena there.
Absolutely. Chris's introduction to himself was that he intended to be respectfully disruptive. And I thought that's a fantastic guy to have on your team.
Councillor Menzies.
Thank you, Chair. Just thinking about your point about attendance, and it would be fair to say that different governments have had different focus on attendance over the years. And when that focus is on attendance, the results improve markedly, but then drop back when it comes off. And I would think that what has happened with COVID means that a lot of the agencies that might be involved need to go back to close to a starting point again to give the confidence back to families and to agencies to engage further in that attendance. And I'm assuming that you've linked into the Southland Attendance Service, and particularly the Invercargill Attendance Service, which has had a long history of community engagement and looking at addressing that issue of attendance, and certainly a good response they provide on a daily basis to probably more young people than primary age students attending, but have extended their brief on that. However, that wasn't what I was going to say. I was just talking about your plan, which is due in May. Are you able to highlight to us a couple of the key elements of that plan that we may be interested in from the council perspective, please?
Kerry, would you like to have you got enough voice to do that?
I apologise everybody for my spectacular COVID voice. It's very husky at the moment. We are in the process now of finalising a series of actions that will form the starting point of this Regional Workforce Plan Mark 1. And as Paul said, what we're creating now is a document that we will be publishing, but it's certainly not the final document. So it will grow and evolve and mature over time. The actions that we've developed at this stage follow that same format. So some of them are going to be really quite high level. Others will be a lot more specific. At this point, we have a series of draft actions that we're in the process of finalising with the RSLG members, that we will be in a position the week following Easter, so we're beginning the 26th, to send out for consultation effectively with some of our key stakeholders, of which Southland District Council would be one of those. So at that point we can say to you, this is what we're proposing as our actions. So some of those will be quite high level. We need to be actively working with, for example, the Just Transitions, Worker Transitions team in ensuring that support available for transition from education into the workplace is focused on the beneficiary rather than the service provider, for example. That's going to be a lot more specific in terms of our role as an RSLG and how we give effect to continuing the conversations that we've already started. So, for example, how do we liaise with the food and fibre community and understanding what their key concerns are from a labour market perspective and how we address those, how we ensure that we're talking with the organisations and partnerships that we need to. So at the moment, we're not in a position to be circulating specifics to you, but this is a chance for us to flag that absolutely we want to be able to send that to you as soon as they're in more of a finalised draft. Our timeframes are that we will have final content ready in early May and then for publication in June. So we've got a short but very focused window to be able to send those drafts to you.
Thank you, Kerry. You did brilliantly.
I am sorry.
Sound like you should go and take a rest now, Kerry. Councillor Menzies, that was your question? Thank you. Councillor Harper.
Yes, Paul. Kia ora, Paul. Tēnā koutou. How much liaison have you actually had with your local colleges? Do you keep them up to date with your good work here? And what are their comments on that?
So our principal focus has been on liaising with SIT. But I would imagine that we, as we complete this work, we will reach out further into the secondary schooling sector. Does that answer your question, George?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
To add to that, we've got Chami Abasengi actually as a member of our group who works within SIT. We have included SIT and others in our consultation to date as well, but we've also been very closely connected to the Ministry of Education through Ivan Hodgetts and the work that's been happening through Mirahika Regenerate. So there's been a direct connection there. But as Paul says, again, that's a conversation that will evolve over time.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's shades of we need to make sure that we've got everybody connected up here, because I think some of this is overlapping into what Southland Youth Futures has been focused on. So we need to make sure that we're not we're making the most of the money that we have available to us actually to get some really good outcomes. So
one of the things that struck me early on was that there is no
further questions. No.
I think you've gone off the air, Julie.
Yeah.
Paul was commenting there.
Am
Julie.
I back now? Yes. Sorry, Paul, I missed that. My connection told me I was unstable, but
Yeah, it's usually my wife who tells me I'm unstable. And your internet connection may be as bad as mine. The comment that I was going to make was that Southland Youth Futures does some great work, but there is a cohort of rangatahi for whom Southland Youth Futures simply is too high. There's that cohort that simply does not actually meet the threshold of completing school. You know, they're not actually part of what we think of as a vocational training transition pipeline. And actually there could be as many as 2,000 rangatahi in that category. Now, if I could magic up 2,000 additional workers for the Southland economy, I'd deserve a medal, but they're there. It's just simply a matter of being able to tap into that fantastic potential. And if we can do that, that's a major win. If we fail to do it, then we've actually failed them, and we've sold our region short.
So it's a huge social cost that we risk there by not actually engaging with those NEETs, those not in educational training, those young people. And yes, we do them a disservice, as you say. So yeah, it's about everybody getting the right focus and making the best of it, really, isn't it? For them.
It's exactly true.
Oh, well, I don't see any other questions there. So thank you both very much for your presentation. And Jerry, I hope that you recover quickly from your ailing, what is going around. It's quite common apparently. So yeah, there's a few out. We look forward to receiving your document for consideration or our feedback, maybe if it's a consultation document. But also I wonder if we could get a copy of your presentation. Just there's a few missing that will probably be interested in receiving that. So that would be fabulous for our records.
Sure.
No problem at all.
Thank you very much.
We'll send that presentation through, and rest assured, when we have a final copy of the report prior to release, we'll come knocking.
We look forward to that. Thank you very much for your presentation and your time today.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Thanks, Gary.
So we have a recommendation on page 27 that we acknowledge the attendance and give thanks to the representatives, which I have done, from the Southland Murihiku Regional Leadership Skills Group. So can I have someone willing to, do we need to move that? Councillor Menzies, it's seconded by Councillor Fraser. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. We now move on to page 29 to the Southland District Council holiday program held in July 2022, and we'll welcome, this is going to be presented by Catherine along with Jess Domigan and Adele Orangi. So welcome.
January 22. Sorry,
But
Chair.
what did I say?
July.
Oh, I need new glasses. Sorry. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, councillors. So it's again that time of year when we update you on what happened in the holiday program in January. So there were a few challenges this year due to good old COVID, but I think Active Southland have adapted to it really well and once again done a really good job. So look, I'm just going to pass over to Jess and Adele so they can update you on what went on.
Kia ora, thank you, Catherine. Is it okay to share the screen? Can I share my screen? I think that I can. Right. Tēnā koutou katoa, Your Worship, Madam Chair and councillors, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jess Domigan, as Catherine said, and I'm the General Manager at Active Southland. And with me is Adele Orangi, who is our Active Families Coordinator and the lead for the holiday program that we're to talk about. It was held in January this year. We're delighted to partner with SDC to deliver your holiday program in January, and would like to share some of the challenges and the successes that we encountered along the way. I would like to acknowledge and thank Catherine for her support and Adele for leading the team in reimagining what the holiday program could look like during COVID restrictions, for their time, for their effort that it took to navigating putting these on during these times. I'll hand over to you.
Okay. So, as you can imagine, COVID threw a few challenges our way. So we planned this while the country, while Southland was in level 2, with the thought that we could be level 2, we could be level 3, or we could be what we now know as traffic lights. So we weren't quite sure how it was going to look, but we had to plan with the strictest requirements in mind so that we could go ahead no matter whether changes happened or not. That meant there was a change to the number of venues that we utilised. So previously, this had been delivered in 8 venues, one day each throughout the region. And after talking with a lot of those venues, they had very different criteria on top of what was going to be the national criteria or the regional criteria for COVID. So that became a real headache. And so in discussions with Catherine and our team here, we decided that we would focus on 2 venues, and one being Te Anau, which has in previous times given us really good numbers. And so talking with them up there and what their requirements were, and then a more central venue, which was Winton. The requirements for both slightly differed. While one was a mandated venue, the other wasn't, but we worked with a mandated venue and a limited number of attendees. That also meant, with it being mandated, that also meant we needed to work with staff and any of the providers that they too were able to enter the venue and provide for the children. So we worked, we found it was a lot easier to work with Active Southland staff to be the main deliverers for the children, because we knew that working in a mandated building, we did meet those requirements. And we also changed the age range from 5 to 12 to 5 to 11. So then we weren't then navigating the children's ID and those types of things. The dates were also something that we looked at, and that was in talking with the local schools that would be going to those particular venues, and that's how we come up with the dates as well. So as you can see here, we offered a range of different activities. So there were 4 different activities every day. So generally there were 2 sports that were delivered by local or the Regional Sports Trust. Regional Sports Organisation, and then there were more quieter passive activities that were delivered by staff. They were different depending on what was available in that region. So for those of you who know Te Anau, the climbing wall is a huge hit up there. And so we contacted the club and they were more than willing to help with making sure the children were all safe and knew what to do. And we also utilised the bowling club. They were so welcoming up there, and it's been a really great activity for the children to get into because they didn't actually know what bowls were. But to have another opportunity to try something that's probably not as energetic, but more strategic. So for those children where huff and puff activities weren't overly interesting to them, they found that bowls was a really good option. We utilised the pump track and the tennis courts and also the grassed area behind the event centre. So it was a really good hub. The attendees, so we had 265 registrations over the 6 days with a pretty even split between male and female. So that was really, really encouraging. And 18 different schools. So they came, some had even travelled from Invercargill up to Winton to come to that holiday program. So that was really cool. And all the children, on every single day, there was somebody had tried something new. And so it was really encouraging for us to see them, even if they weren't sure what it was or they had never tried it, they really engaged and got involved. It was great. So the highlights obviously was the number of children and the enthusiasm and willingness to give things a go. That was a real hit certainly for the staff to see. To work with the local communities was a key when planning this, that I wanted the children to be able to continue those activities, whether the holiday program was there or not. So to utilise local providers and to use the areas around that. As I said, the program was different every day. So if you did attend on more than one occasion, then it was different and you were getting new skills. And the feedback that we got from the parents was really fantastic. As much as the mandate sort of stopped them from coming in and seeing their children participate, they were very grateful for the safety measures that we had put in place and were very conscious of that throughout the days with their children. And they also liked the idea that there was something different every day that they could try. I hope that's...
So this last slide, I guess, just shares how the centre of the program was the children and what fun they had with us on behalf of yourselves. So we look forward to continuing to look at how we can ensure a year-round impact. Obviously, January is really beneficial and parents definitely appreciated and valued the SDC holiday program at that time. But we do look forward to how we can ensure a year-round impact, increasing SDC visibility in the community and better understanding what the need and strengths and opportunities to engage with children and their families for future holiday programs. And finally, just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the wider SDC team who we work alongside in all elements of our work across Active Southland. We really appreciate those growing relationships across play, active rec, sport and spaces and places, and relish the opportunity to continue to develop partnerships to support those living in Southland District to improve their wellbeing through being active and connected in your community. So I'll open it up if there's any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Jess and Adele. Sounds like it was good fun for all those that did attend. And by the look of that last photo from maybe the people that were helping as well. Just a question for me about the 18 schools. I'd be quite interested to sort of know how far people were willing to travel for that. So, would you be able to provide us with the details of the schools and whether it was just an opportunity that they were, say, in Te Anau and so they attended because they were up there, or whether they actually did do the travel?
The travel, as you say, for Te Anau, some of them were from Invercargill, but were staying with the grandparents, and they thought that would be an ideal thing. But generally, Winton, they came from Riverton to Winton. Edendale, Lumsden. So they sort of came from all over to come to that Winton one, whereas mainly Te Anau or people that were on holiday in Te Anau.
Thank you. Certainly it was a bit sad that we didn't have it across the district, because many parents look forward to that day that the kids get to try something new locally, that they don't have to travel. So hopefully that's a different scenario again in the next 12 months that we can.
Interestingly, we did offer buses to bring people from all over the region to those, but there was just not the uptake of those, so we didn't put those on in the end.
And that could relate to parents concerned about safety, you know, like if I put them on the bus, then what happens? Yeah. Some may not have been concerned about that, but others would be. Yeah. Any other questions?
No question, but top marks. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ruddenclaw.
Thank you, through you, the Chair. Thanks for your presentation today. I didn't have a question. I just wanted to congratulate you on running such a successful program for our primary school children. Love seeing that you're offering them like bowls, something they've never experienced before, and hopefully a skill they'll take into the future too. Well done.
Thank you.
Yes, it's good to see that there is that balance and consideration for those children that may not be naturally gravitating towards sports, because it's probably them that don't get the same social interactions outside what their usual choice of hobbies that they do. So it's fantastic. Yeah. There being no other questions by the look of that, thank you very much for your presentation, and I see that we have in your time to come and join us here. We have a copy of your presentation online, so those that missed this, who have been absent today, will be able to catch up with that as their time permits. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, on page 29, we have a recommendation that we receive this report. Do I have someone willing to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Ruddenclaw, seconded Councillor Menzies. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we move on to, oops, go back to the right section. On page 35 of the agenda is my report, a few things that I've been involved in. Life is very restricted and various forms of lockdown. I've decided I don't get near as much as what I had once did. So any questions on the items that I have in my list there? Councillor Fraser.
It just really in regard to point 3, meeting with the Community Foundation. Thank you for meeting Aaron. I was there because I've known Aaron for a number of years, and so he asked to speak to someone. Just wondering, Julie, where we go with that, and whether we need to get them to speak to the whole council and kind of look at if there's ways that we can support and encourage what they're doing.
Yes. Yes, I had asked a question on that, and I've just realised I haven't followed up on that particularly well, so I will go on with that. But yeah, getting them, it's quite, it's a great concept that the foundation, Community Foundations, has set up. I thought it was really interesting that people could support their local community, but if they wished to gift something, or they had if there was a legacy, they didn't have to go through all the procedures and technicalities themselves. They could just have the brief, hand over the brief and get it going. So I see that there would probably be a reasonable amount of interest in Southland. So waiting to hear back from them on just where they're at with their investigative options. So yeah, there was some inquiry about maybe some support, any support Southland District Council could give them. So yeah, we were giving them some pointers on that. So but yeah, we should get them to come and talk to us at some stage when they're moving through. Thank you for the introduction there, it was very good. There being no further questions, I will move that my report is received. Do I have someone willing to second that? Thank you, Councillor Scott. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much. I will declare the meeting closed and welcome you all to or welcome Bobby and Graham, I think I can see there, to give us a presentation on just transition.